We want to get 500,000 tonnes locked away by Q1 in resource, 500,000 tonnes of contained copper by Q1 for resource purposes. But early in the year, next year, we'll start the feasibility work. We've got about a tonne of met samples that we're sending across to Perth in the next couple of weeks. And then, as I mentioned, we've started the baseline, we've started the geotech work already. So we're getting ahead a bit on that, but we know T13 is going to be a mine anyway. It's just a matter of getting that rolling while we're building up the resource base to show that we have a 10-year capacity at 40,000 tonne would be the ideal target.
This is general advice and my opinions only. This episode's company has paid me for this interview. I may be long, short, or hold an interest in stocks or CFDs mentioned. Past performance isn't reliable. The interviewee's views are their own, not necessarily mine. LEVRD operates as a corporate authorised representative 00131 8377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website, link in the show notes.
Stop loss haters, we're heading to Africa again, the land of opportunity, brought to you by WA Waterbores, the best waterbore drillers in Australia, probably the best in Africa if they went over there as well. I've got a bit of a legend of the industry, I'd say, here, Midas Minerals, MM1 and the MD, Mark Calderwood. Welcome to LEVRD, mate.
Thanks, Matt.
Mate, anyone thinks of Perseus, they think of Jeff Quartermain of recent times. But, mate, for those who don't know, Mark, you were the man before him. Took Perseus from, what would you say, a micro cap to a $1.6 billion ASX 100 producer, if you forgot.
Yeah, I think it had a $6 million valuation, EV, when we listed it.
Yeah, mate. I gather you've using that experience from Perseus and taken it into Midas. You love Africa that much, do you, mate?
Yeah, I've had total, including the pre-Perseus times, of nearly 20 years exposure to Africa, and you can't beat it in terms of the quality of the assets. You just got to be wary of which countries you're in.
Yeah, so I guess what's the back from early 2000s days when you started Perseus to dealing in Africa now? I know you're in a different jurisdiction in Namibia at the moment, but what is the feel of Africa like as a mine explorer, developer, producer, do you think, compared to back then?
Yeah, it's probably easier now. There's probably more service providers, etc., more Aussies providing the services as well. Where we are in Namibia, it's in my view, the best country in Africa that I've ever worked in by a long shot, even easier than Ghana. Ghana used to be the darling of Africa, but Namibia would leave that for dead. But it's the quality. You can get staff. The staff stay. You employ people, they stay, and get. You can build up good skill levels, and it's a lot cheaper to explore in Africa than in Australia. Yeah,
mate, that's the go. Bang for buck on the drill bit is what you're in at the moment. Mate, I'll go through the metrics for the punters. MM1, mate, it's been a bit of a stealth rise from 10-20 cents up to nearly $1, and you're holding your stock. It's up here, so market cap's sitting at about 220. You got some pretty reputable guys on the register, including yourself, and we'll get into it. But we're talking Namibia and we're talking copper. Is this, and we've seen a bit of this, a bit of a rise in that CuEq copper belt of recent. Talk to me about copper in Namibia. Is it there? Is it emerging? What's in the district?
Well, it had some history, so copper history. So in our area, we had the famous Suneb mine, which produced 6 million tonnes of copper lead zinc. It's one of the most famous base metal mines of the world. So they had some history, but there hasn't been much exploration in the last 50 years in Namibia. It's basically been pretty idle. So we were able to pick up this asset from a company that had spent money on it over the last 10 years. So we've been able to get a head start on the exploration. Quite a few people are busy in the southern copper belt, which is the Kalahari, and we're up in the CuEq copper belt, or what we call the Otavi fold land. That's same geology as Congo and Zambia, but a bit different style of deposit.
Yeah, so I saw some of the metrics around what was, is it Suneb?
Yeah.
So is that operating now, or that's ceased?
It's finished. It was a small. It was about 30 million tons at about 20% copper, lead, zinc.
Yeah.
About 90 grams silver. It was made a lot of money for Newmont back in the days before they became a gold company, and it's closed now. But there's another couple of mines in the area that are about to start up again. Combat Mine and Shooty, both copper mines, copper silver. So there's a lot of history in the area, and there's obviously a lot of gold mining in Namibia and uranium.
Yeah.
It's a big uranium country.
Yeah, very, very much so. Right, mate. How this, you mentioned companies spent a bit of dosh on this asset come into your portfolio. Mate, how did it come about? When did it come about? You know, and I can see with the register, you've got the Richardson Street crew in, which is where you're part of the Richardson Street
correct.
crew, where your office is. The Parsons Naylor crew. How did it all come about, and give us a bit of timing on when you got the asset?
Yeah, so we picked it up. We actually reached out to them in late 2024. The company that owned it before, it was a Brazilian mid-tier that owned it. They'd spent about 20 million US. We were introduced to the country by the Namibian Promotion Board. We looked at a number of projects, and then we just cold called these guys and said, "Do you want to sell an asset?" And they said, "Yeah, we do."
Is that how easy it is?
Yeah, that was luckily it wasn't a competitive environment. We only had I think when we contacted them, we had a market cap of 7 million, and it was a 10 million US transaction. But they could recognise that we had funding behind us, and they could recognise that what I'd done with Perseus. So they said, "Okay, we'll give you guys the go on it," and we finally got it signed up in May 2025, and the transaction completed in December 25. But they spent 20 million US on it. We inherited about 56 kilometres of core and a whole bunch of other good work that they'd done. They did really good work, quality work, and we're just lucky timing wise. We got them at the right time.
Yeah. I assume blokes like me can't just cold call. You need some sort of reputation behind you, like yourself, mate. The Parsons Naylor, that crew, did they sort of come into the shell, and then once you got the asset in, that sort of helped turbocharge it from the start?
Well, Mike Naylor was a director of it, of the first director of Midas. Midas was spun out of Tawana, which owned Bald Hill.
Oh,
and
there you go.
So Tawana spun it out before it merged and became Elita. So we listed Midas in 2021, and Mike was a director, and Mike and Steve bought a lot of shares on market. It was more Mike involved with it early on, but yes, ever since that Richardson Street started, we've always been part of the group.
Yeah. So, mate, I've been told you've got a reputation for not overpaying for an asset. And I tend to be a bit tight on everything we spend money on. Yeah. Most of the successful people are tight, I've found. Mate, how long were you on the hunt? How many projects did you go through before you really nailed down this one for the price you got it?
Yeah, it took us a while. So we were all lithium at one stage, Midas, ironically, because of our experience in lithium. But once the lithium crashed, we probably took us over a year to find something. So we've been pretty picky. Kissed a lot of frogs along the way, and once this opportunity came by, we got our act together pretty quick. Yeah,
and look, within 4 months of getting it, you released a maiden MRE, so 10.5 million tonne at 1.6% copper, with 21 grams of silver as well, so 2% copper equivalent. You said was a lot of that just from analysing that 50 odd kilometres worth of core that came with the project?
Yes. Yeah. And then the second one, Devlin, wasn't quite ready for resource. So we're drilling at Devlin at the moment as well. But T13 was ready for resource. So we did that on all prior drilling.
Yeah. So, and did you think you'd be going this? Did you think you'd be between the MRE to have 6 rigs on site at the moment? Do you see yourself, it's like with the shareholder register and getting that capital in early has helped you sort of get into the space you're in at the moment compared to where other companies mightn't have that luxury, that acceleration?
Yes, and that's helped having the good shareholders on board, and the shareholders even more recently said, well, don't stop at 6. If there's money there, if you want it, and just keep cranking the meters, because if you're going to grow the resource base quickly, while the market for copper is strong, keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so mate, there's a few deposits to go through. T13's the maiden MRE. Mate, can you give us a scope of like the tenements that you picked up? How much of them that you own, and what data come with what? And you've actually discovered a new bit. Just brief overview before we get into the deep end of it.
Okay, so from Nexa, we picked up the 10 licenses. You can see those there. There's actually 11 on that one, but we picked up the 10 licenses. We've got the Western Group, which has got T13 and Spatsu, which we discovered. And then on the east, we've got Devlin, Sagan, Haas-Betelsport. They all have good drill hits in them. So this stuff wasn't grassroots. They tested about 40% with soil sampling, and they did a lot of geophysics. And I said, as I mentioned, 56 kilometres of drilling. So we're going on the back of known deposits and known a bunch of undrilled soil anomalies, etc. So a lot of drill targets, and about half a dozen of them have good drill hits in them already. Deblin's the next cab off the rank for resources, I think, followed by Spatsu probably.
So is that... I guess your favourite, the favourite son in this group is sort of T13, where you're going to, because of the data you've inherited, you're going to look to extend that first priority, or are you trying to balance all those drill rigs across all that tenement package?
We're balancing it. So we've got two rigs at T13, we've got 2 at Spatsu, and we've got actually got 1 at Spatsu at the moment. We've got 3 at Devlin. We're trying to manage it, but T13 will be the first one to go indicated resources probably, and it's probably where the feasibility work will start, just because of its sheer grade. The high grade zone at T13 is about 3.5% copper, so that's where your first few years of production probably going to come from, because it's so high grade and has so much silver. The very high grade zone there's probably got enough silver to pay for everything in the first few years. So there's it's the economics of T13 are obvious, and Devlin we just need to get resources out, and the other ones we just need to get resources. So most likely T13 will be the first to go into feasibility, but the others can catch up if we throw enough rigs at them.
That we'll go on to T13 now, mate. Look, it's not just the... Don't want to fluff it up too much, but not just the grades, the bloody thicknesses, like 50 metres at 7.8% copper equivalent. That's the copper and the silver. But these holes I'm showing on screen here, were a lot of them infill holes, or are there any of those that are actually extensional beyond the initial core that you got?
They're all infill, those ones actually.
Yeah.
They're all infill, but the extensional will come. We're also drilling on T13 West as well, but extension will come. But we're trying to get this upper levels drilled out a bit more so we can get indicated on it, and then work out which way the shoots dip and follow them down dip.
Was that these infill holes? Were they in line, or even a surprise of like, was there any upside on the thicknesses? Yeah, mostly
better
the
than
thickness.
Expected. And the thickness is about right, but the grades are better than expected, and the high grade core zone of the resource is showing great continuity, and it's probably better than expected, fair to say.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned T13 West. I'll bring it up on screen here. So, was there much that came with the initial work in T13 West, or was most of it in T13 Main?
Very little in T13 West. It accounted for a small part of the resource, and it was pretty low grade. But I'm confident that we'll come out with a high grade shoot within T13 West. So grade will come in, and the grade will go up dramatically, I believe, on T13 West. when we get enough drill holes in there. So early days, but I have high expectations for T13 West.
And looking at that on screen is the only reason there's a separation in those mineral resource outlines and what you've got at the moment, just lack of drill data. You're going to be testing
Correct.
that whole corridor there.
Yeah, and it's part of a bigger corridor that we're still geochemming actually, and it's part of about a 4 kilometre long zone that we think we can get more repeats potentially. So yeah, it's, believe it or not, the geochem that Nexa did was very wide space, but we're finding out when we infill, we can get some good clarity on drill targets. So yeah, we think there could be more of these lurking, these high grade, small footprint deposits.
Yeah, I think I was just finding, I think you had a picture of the there. Oh, there we go. So they're those geochem targets. So is that just all magnetic work?
Soils. Soil, anomalous soils, soil sampling.
Yeah.
The mapping is done on geophysics as well, but the interesting thing is only about half the area is successfully soil sampled in that area. There's shallow calcrete, and that kills the soil sampling. But so we think the whole dome boundaries are targets. It's just a matter of testing priorities, and eventually the whole boundary of that Nabis formation, the whole boundary will need to be drill tested, because there could be any number of little high grade deposits amongst them.
Yeah.
Around the dome.
Yeah, righto. On to the next one, Deblin. You just released only a couple of days ago, so you've got visual copper mineralised intervals awaiting assays. Does this? I know there are only visual estimates at the moment. I'll give you so there was sort of 37 metres and 20 metres, all about 300 to 450 below surface, downhole. That mineralisation, I know it's visual, but is it looking pretty parallel to what you've seen in other core in the area?
Yeah, it's better than the two. It's between two Nexa holes, so that DB1 is better than either of those two other holes, which one was pretty good. It was a 4% copper hit. I reckon we'll get DBD will be our first 100% meters from Deblin. So we get 100% meters from T13, but we've never had one at Deblin. But I think it's the first of the big hits that we'll get at Deblin. And it does work its way to surface. Just it's so underexplored in between surface and where they discovered the down plunge. But over the coming months, we'll fill all that in with drilling that whole zone. It goes for over a K actually. So, it goes right to surface. There's some big trenches. It's big trench hits at surface that have really haven't been drilled. And so we'll follow this whole zone all the way down.
Yeah, and so those the assays of what the visual estimates have come from. How long are they? What's your sort of turnaround over in Namibia?
It's probably over another month or so to go.
Yeah.
The lab turnaround's been a bit slow, but it's steady now. We've got good conveyor belt of assays results coming in, and we'll have good news flow. But it's going to take at least a month to get those ones back. Yeah, those first three holes.
Yeah. Now, I guess the discovery you made at Spatsu, how did, was that just a soil sampling punt that you've poked a hole in? Was there any data there?
So Nexa found the anomalies. We just went and they put a few holes in, but they didn't put them in the right spot. So we just came in and drilled the guts of the soil anomaly. Yeah. And bingo, on our sixth hole, we picked up one of the first zone of mineralisation, and we're still following it. It's a tricky one. We've got our first core drilling in there because we don't understand what's going on exactly, but we've traced it now for about 800 metres, and there's good holes and bad holes, but it's interesting. I believe there's going to be resources there. It's just we just don't understand enough about it at the moment.
Yeah. But
it highlights the potential of that northern side of the dome all the way along.
Yeah. So I guess runway, mate, you raised a good lick earlier on, and 6 drill rigs on site. Like, take us through your sort of balance sheet at the moment. Anticipated the quarterly's coming up soon, and how much runway you got to keep drilling the crap out of all this?
Yeah, so we've got quite a good balance sheet. At the start of June, we had about $30 million in the bank. I haven't got the end of June numbers yet, but we had about 30 at the start of June. We're spending about $2 million a month It's taken us a while to get up to that,
Yeah.
$2 million a month on exploration. And we're trying to push that even harder. We're trying to get it up to $2.5 million a month. So we've got a good runway ahead of us. The costs are very low. So I've just been working on the budgets, and our costs all in, including assays, geologists, vehicles, buildings, food, everything. It's about half diamond, half RC is about $160 all in, including assays, everything.
Wow.
Everything. It's dramatically cheaper than Australia and cheaper than West Africa.
Yeah.
In fact, the RC rate's about $50 Aussie a metre for RC, and the diamonds about 120 US. But by the time our geologist costs, we've got about 10 geologists in total. If I count all of that, all the field staff, on-site lab that we have for the initial XRFs, it's all about it. We get it done for anywhere between 140 and $160 a metre all in.
Holy hell. Yeah, God, it does have some perks in the exploration world, doesn't it? More just because you can get so much more done with your balance sheet.
Correct. And the main thing is you can get people when you need them. So we could build up crews when we need field staff to do soil sampling, etc. We've probably got 40 guys on site at the moment in total. And it helps us deal with the volume of core. I think week before last, we got 1.1 kilometres of core. We're planning to do, over the next 12 months, do about 125,000 metres of drilling, and about 60 of that in the 6-month period.
Yeah, wow. Mate, and what's your obligations to run all that as a MD from Perth? Like, have you got an expat team that has to go over there regularly? Like, who's running the show over there?
No, we've got one a permanent on-site exploration manager, Aussie, and then we've got 7 Namibian geologists, and they're supported by one Aussie, one Kiwi that fly in and out as required, and we have one consultant. So only one Aussie on-site geologist on site.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tight. We have a local HR experienced guy, experienced woman on HR and safety, and some of them come out of mines like the B2 gold mine. The lab guy comes from B2 Gold, which is a big gold mine only 25 k's from us. So there's a good workforce. We have a good local Namibian workforce, skilled English-speaking country, of course, good infrastructure. I mean, the roads are rated higher than Australia. In fact, we average over 100 kilometres an hour from the drive from Windhoek to site. There's grid power there, rail. So it's actually a great place to operate.
Yeah, yeah. Are you enjoying it more in Namibia than where you were in Perseus?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, West Africa, it's much better. The food's good. I summed it up when my exploration manager, first time in Africa, he said, this is I like Africa. I said, well, this is not Africa, because you can drink water out of the tap at the hotel. It's not Africa. I can take you to what I call Africa, and then you'll know you're in Africa.
I'll show you. You measure it on how much toilet paper you have to go through, eh? How good the African country is.
Food's really good. You can get it in Windhoek. You can get a better steak than you can get in Perth.
How good's that? Oh, mate, you're selling the dream. Love it. Well done. Mate, speaking of that area, I've got the map up here. You've been there, done it as a producer, not just flogging companies off to majors. So you could go either way with this. How are you looking at what you've got and where you want to take this in Namibia? And what are your options, do you think, in the region?
Yeah, so you got the smelter nearby. Look, that smelter's probably not competitive. We can truck 500 k's to the port, Vora's Bay port, for about $40 Aussie a tonne. Again, half of what you'd pay in Australia, probably. It's a great place to build because the cost, as I mentioned, the costs are cheap there because the Namibian dollar is linked to the rand. So it's cheaper. It's a cheaper economy. You can get stuff built in South Africa if you can't build it in Namibia. You can truck it up. You've got power. I think the WEA study, if I'm not mistaken, was about 11 point something cents a kilowatt hour. We've got good solar power capacity up at Otavi as well. It's a cheap place to operate. You've got 2 cement factories within 100 kilometres of site. You've got, it only costs you about 250 Aussie to do a cubic metre, to lay a cubic metre of cement. It's just a cheap place to operate. We wouldn't even build a camp. We're not far from Otavi, so if we build a plant at T13, we'd probably bus people in and out of Otavi. We've got a workforce in the area. The government's quite supportive, so it's a great place to operate. Great place to build a mine as well.
Yeah, and I guess with the Chinese ownership across the board in the uranium side of Namibia between Rossing, Husab, Langer Heinrich, Bannerman now also. How are you thinking we're going to see more potential Chinese partnerships with Namibia in copper, or not needed?
Yeah, they acquired acquired the Suneb smelter, and they acquired recently the Twin Hills gold deposit from Osino. They just took that over on market for $300 million.
Yeah, wow.
So they are quite capable of moving in and trying buying assets. So we'll never know where that plays out. But B2 Gold is near us as well. That's a big gold producer owned by Canadian, B2 Otjikoto Gold Mine owned by B2 Gold, Canadian company. The Chinese, we just don't know where they're at. We'll play that out as time goes on. But I don't think this stuff's going to go to the smelter, but who knows? Depends how aggressive Sinomine want to be for feeding that smelter. The problem is that the Chinese smelters are paying you money to take concentrates. They're paying the market about $170 a tonne. So that more than covers all your costs, transport costs.
Yeah.
So
would that be the same case at the Sinomine one potentially?
Yes, except it's hard for it to compete with the Chinese smelters because they've got power costs and stuff like that. But it's possible. Yeah. It's they don't have any feed for that smelter at the moment, but whether it can compete against international, who knows?
That and on the permitting front, and is the permitting side linked to having a bit of a Chinese partnership or anything in Namibia? Does that affect the permitting at all? It's
not a positive or a negative.
Yeah.
So because the Chinese owned the two big uranium mines, I had a feeling that maybe the government wouldn't let them have a share of Bannerman, but the government doesn't seem to mind. Yeah. The government doesn't really interfere with things too much. It's really good in Namibia. It has, it's a pretty straight up and down country. So it's not a negative or a positive for the Chinese, having Chinese there.
Okay, so what is your sort of permitting pathway? Is that way down the road? You're focused on drilling the hell out of this and resource growth?
We have actually started our environmental baseline work already. So we've just attended that out. We're watching Weir Gold pretty closely because they are going through that process at the moment. And it's very rapid. They've used a scoping study for the mining lease application. And we believe without talking to them recently, but we believe they'll get all their approvals within 12 months from application for mining and environmental. So Namibia is keen for things to happen. And as I mentioned, we came in on the back of the Namibian Promotion Board, and they've been quite helpful. But there's no doubt there's with the Otjikoto gold mine coming to an end, the smelter now closed, there's a lot of people looking for work, and the government's keen for things to move ahead.
You'd think you'd be I'm not sure how picky they are in Namibia, but like copper flotation compared to, cyanide leaching and tailings dams and heap leach uranium projects, surely you got the more easier one to get through.
Yeah, it should be quite good. We won't need a very big plant either because of the grade and the fact that the milling is, the ore is so soft at T13. So it should, and we have water, so we don't have the water problems. We've got enough groundwater to support our needs. That's the biggest challenge in the desert parts of the country is water.
Yeah. So no NAM water agreement required for you guys to do your thing?
My understanding is no. If we have excess water, we can feed it in the canal that goes from Combat Mine down towards Windhoek. So if we have excess water, but I don't think we'll have too much excess water.
You probably sell
We're not. Yeah, well, I thought about that. We're actually not. But we're a bit far from we are, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not much value for them.
Yeah.
They'll find enough of their own water, I believe.
Okay, so I guess next year coming up, drilling resource upgrades? Like, when might is study the last thing on your mind? Is resource growth way more important than that at the moment?
Yeah, we want to get 500,000 tonnes locked away by Q1 in resource. 500,000 tonnes of contained copper by Q1 for resource purposes. But early in the year, next year, we'll start the feasibility work. We've got about a tonne of met samples that we're sending across to Perth in the next couple of weeks. And then, as I mentioned, we've started the baseline, we've started the geotech work already. So we're getting ahead a bit on that, but we know T13 is going to be a mine anyway. It's just a matter of getting that rolling while we're building up the resource base to show that we have a 10-year capacity at 40,000 tonne would be the ideal target. Not a lot of science to that. It just seems like a fair target to have a lock away until we grow the resource base beyond 500,000 tonnes.
Yeah. So and your shareholder register, we went through it before. Obviously, update these if you need to. Like board, you've got about 7%, and you obviously got Parsons Naylor. They got sub 5, and then you got Acorn, Tribeca as well. So it's still a pretty tight register.
Yeah. So we have about 35% institutional shareholding, good funds too, good top quality funds that have been supportive to the Richardson Street group of companies, handpicked from the best of them. And then we also have a lot of punters that did well out of Perseus in their private nets that have got a lot of stock as well. So it's quite tightly held Midas. And we'll look to grow the institutional over time as we move forward.
What's last question, mate? What do you reckon is going to be your biggest win? What hole would really give you a lot more confidence on where this is going? Is it in T13? Is it lower at Spatsu or?
T13 is fairly low risk as I see it now. We'll grow it, I believe, T13, but some more certainty around Devlin, and then. What's next would be the next thing, finding another 250,000 tonner is what we want to find of copper. So it could be any of those other ones until we get some RC drilling onto some of them. We don't really know where the next one or two are coming from. I believe that we'll discover 1 million tonne of copper there. It's just going to be in half a dozen deposits. But the economics, when we get to come out with the economics on T13, they'll be eye-watering in terms of potential NPV.
Yeah, very much so. And that's it. We'll see what the copper price is by then, mate. Is that smelter there? Has that got a concentrator, or is that just a smelter?
No, it doesn't have a concentrator, but there's one at Combat. But no, it's a big smelter. Dundee owned it, and they spent about 400 million on it. It's a big smelter, but it doesn't have a concentrator as far as I know.
Yeah, interesting. Very good, mate. Mate, congrats on the bloody share price rise. You've had a great one. It's just it hasn't been a stupid one. Like, it's been a very stealth rise from up to near $1. So, mate, well done. The things it does when having a bit of capital in the bank and you can punch holes in. So yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, no, it's been a good ride, and as the news flow has been going up, it's sort of followed the copper price and silver price, so it's sort of all helped, all looked after. It's all been self-fulfilling, so to speak.
Very good, mate. Well, best of luck over in Namibia, mate. With all those holes, you mightn't need as much luck. So well done, mate, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Thanks, Pete, for coming on LEVRD.
Thanks, Matt. Been a pleasure.